Our class today about Kabbalah and the Zohar. Um, and Kabbalah derives from the Hebrew word of, it's going to be on the video. So it's derived from the Hebrew word for receiving. Lekabel is to receive, or means like the tradition, and it represents a rich tapestry of Jewish mystical thought that seeks to understand the nature of the divine, the universe, and the human soul. Central to Kabbalistic literature is the Zohar, okay, a seminal work that has profoundly influenced Jewish spirituality and theology. This is volume one. There's I think 24 volumes. It depends on the translation, etc. What are the origins and development of Kabbalah? Kabbalah's roots can be traced back to early Jewish mystical texts, such as Sefer Yetzirah. Here is an artistic work of Sefer Yetzirah. Please move any water away from it or food. That particular thing is worth $10,000, so we want to be a little bit careful with it. It's a donation from Irv Levine. It's a donation by Irv Levine to Congregation Ner Tamid. And I set up two tables outside at the end of the class. Maybe either we clear everything from the table and then we'll open it up and I'll show you, or we'll take it to the table there. And I apologize to the people on Zoom. But hopefully we'll have some time to go and look at some of this amazing stuff. It's an artistic work on Sefer Yetzirah by a German artist, blanking the name, Max, forgot the last name, but I'll give you the information because it's right all in there. And it was a beautiful donation by Irv Levine. I mean, we had to go to his car and carry it, it was like a big thing. It was actually donated to the gala event. So if anyone wants this at his home, let us know and we'll arrange for it. You just need to give the donation to Ner Tamid. A small detail. Okay, so Sefer Yetzirah and Sefer Bahir are Jewish mystical texts from way back early, from around the year 500-600 CE. And they explored the metaphysical aspects of creation and the divine. However, it was during the medieval period, particularly in the 13th century Spain, that Kabbalah flourished as a systematic discipline. And this era saw the emergence of the Zohar, which became the cornerstone of Kabbalistic study. It is common to say in the academic world that Kabbalah emerged at a time where mysticism was also spread around Europe and other religions. And also, it is common to say that it was developed at a time that Jews were in distress and were persecuted and were sort of like feeling that turning to the mystical sides, to the unknown sides, might be their salvation. And we see this throughout history. Also, Hasidism was also developed at a time where Jews were persecuted. And even today, when Jews have a lot of troubles, Kabbalah is becoming more and more popular because there is like some kind of like a psychological need for the human being to go, if I can't understand what's going on in this world, I go to more metaphysical worlds, to the more mystical parts, the unknown, etc. It doesn't have to be that way, but it's one explanation for the emergence of this. Okay, what is the Zohar? The Zohar is a structure and the themes. The Zohar is a multi-volume work written in Aramaic and structured as a mystical commentary on the Torah. It represents a series of discourses by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and his disciples, delving into the esoteric dimensions of the scriptures. The text employs rich symbolism and allegory to convey its teachings, making it both profound and enigmatic. So a big part of writing these mystical works is to make it very profound. It makes an impact, but once you read it, you're like, what exactly does it mean? It's very enigmatic. It's not always complete in its ideas. When you write something that's more rational, you make a logic, assumption. You write down the issue, what is the problem, and you bring different reasons, and you try to explain it. When you write something mystical, you leave it open, you leave it vague. You don't always explain, and that creates a lot of power to the text. Okay, so if I tell you, okay, I'm drinking water because the doctor said I need to hydrate myself, you can understand that, okay? Because but if I'm saying to you, I'm drinking water because I don't know, I'm trying to think of something enigmatic, okay, but uh, because Torah is like water, you might think the rabbi is, needs some rest, to say the least, right?
Could also bring
But then you're like, oh yeah, Torah is like water because water gives you life, right? And Torah, if you study it well, it gives you life, etc. And oh, maybe it's all connected in some way, but I left it open and it's open for interpretation, but it also sounds profound, right? So it's a way that now I'm a little bit cynical now, but if you look at things in a way that you're committed to this way of thought and this system of thought, so it becomes very powerful. It's kind of like takes over your life and how you look at things. Okay, so that's maybe some of the reservation that some people have with Kabbalah and mysticism in that way. But it is profound and it is enigmatic. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is a second century scholar. He's all throughout the Mishnah and the Talmud, the ancient texts that we talked about. So the tradition about the Zohar is that he wrote it, but academically today we know that is not correct. It was written in the 13th century, but by De Leon, okay, who was a Spanish Jewish scholar. But he writes it in a way that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai wrote it, giving the text even more power. And because if he would write it, everyone's like, okay, that's nice that you wrote it, but who are you? Okay, but if Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai writes it, and suddenly we discover these texts, or maybe they've gone throughout the centuries, and we've revealed them now, it makes it much more powerful, and it gives it credibility in that sense, and it gives us religious validity, and it makes it a holy in that way. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was probably somewhat of a mysticist, and there are a few stories about him that we'll look at one of them, which is a classic text from the Zohar about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. We just celebrated Lag BaOmer last week, and that's a holiday centered around Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And hundreds of thousands of Jews go up to Mount Meron near Tzfat to visit his grave on that day, and they light fires there, and there's like a big celebration that goes on for a few days. It's pretty unbelievable. If you've ever been there, I don't recommend going there on that day because it's very busy. Sadly, it was very tragic. 3 years ago, I think, 41 people were killed on that day because of the like they were
crowds.
yeah, the crowds and like they were run over by people. It was like yeah. Yeah, trampled. So it has its dangers. Okay, going back to the key concepts of the Zohar. Ein Sof, the infinite. Okay, so that's one very important concept. I'll just introduce four key concepts. Ein Sof, the infinite. The Zohar introduces the concept of Ein Sof, representing the infinite and unknowable aspect of God. This notion emphasizes the transcendence of the divine beyond human comprehension. So any thought we have about God cannot be comprehended by us. And the minute we think we understand something, we need to immediately abolish that thought and like realize there's no way for us to do that. And also, God is infinite. There's no, all the way back and all the way in the future. And it goes together with the unknowable aspect of God. There's no way we are able to understand God. And God is everywhere also in that regard, because it's Ein Sof. There's no finite to it. It's like everywhere. Sfirot. We'll look at the Sfirot in a moment, and we'll even see a nice movie about it. Sfirot is a big thing okay, I'm sure you've all seen this, right? You're familiar with the Sfirot?
Oh, the spaceman.
Hmm?
He said the spaceman.
Why? Is this a spaceman?
It does look a little bit.
I've never seen this.
You've never heard of this 10 Sfirot of the Kabbalah?
No.
George heard about it.
No, no.
Shame on you, Jews, yeah. Okay. So we'll talk about it. Okay, so if you don't, so it's a good thing I brought that. Wait, look, we're not there yet. Where were we? So the Sfirot, the divine emanations, central to Kabbalistic cosmology, are the 10 Sfirot, which are attributes through which the divine manifests and interacts with the world. Okay, so God has different attributes, these 10 attributes, and through them, God interacts with the world. We'll go through them, okay? These include, among others, Chokhmah, Binah. Chokhmah is wisdom, Binah is understanding, Tiferet is beauty, okay, among others, okay? I'll also share with you already another thing we're going to talk about later today. Where is the
Eraser?
eraser?
There's a piece of paper here that somebody used.
What is it? I don't wanna.
What? Oh,
Piece of paper.
okay.
So,
That works.
Yeah. Why? Did that.
Mhm.
just hope I don't get mine.
Okay. So there is also Chet, Bet, and Daled. Okay. Okay. Can you read the Hebrew here? So this would be Chokhmah,
Mhm.
Binah,
Yeah.
and Da'at. Okay. Okay. Which would also be Chet would be CH. Bet would be sorry. Okay. Okay. And this would be the D. So that what would that be?
Chabad.
Chabad.
Chabad. Okay. Chabad, the big movement that we all know, is based on three of these sfirot. Okay. And we're going to talk about them as well today. Oh my God, we have a lot to talk about, something that I don't know about. Have a lot of work. The third key concept is creation and divine light. The Zohar discusses the process of creation as a series of emanations from the divine involving the contraction of God's infinite light to allow for the existence of the finite world. Okay? If God is infinite, and this goes back to the first concept that God, the Ein Sof, God is infinite, right? So if God is infinite, how did he create the world? If he's everywhere, what meaning is there to the space we are in? How did all of this happen? So according to Kabbalah, okay, God had this thought or whatever it is. We think it's thought, but something like that. But he decided to do tzimtzum of himself, which is contraction. God said, I'm going to create this world, okay, and I'm going to make space for this world. This world is finite, right? We know that, there's a timeline for planet Earth, for anything, right? For plants, for rocks, for anything has a timeline, okay? Which is actually brilliant. And now we know this scientifically, something that they realized in Kabbalah thousands of years ago, right? So God sort of like created, contracted himself and made himself smaller in a way to allow a space for the whole world to be built, to be created, and then through lights, okay, coming from the divine, fill up the world with godly ways. And sort of like the way that we're able to do God's work is be sort of like vessels for this light of God. We as human beings have the ability to sort of like bring God's light into the world. Okay? Is that clear, that concept? It's a vague concept. It's enigmatic. Okay? So it can't be really fully clear. And it does not have to necessarily make sense, but this is the way Kabbalah looks at it. Human soul and spiritual ascent is the last concept that I wanted to mention today. The text explores the nature of the soul, its origins, and its journey towards reunification with the divine. It emphasizes the importance of spiritual refinement and ethical conduct in this process. Okay, so this is a big thing about in spirituality altogether, but also in Kabbalah and in the Zohar, and later on, especially in Hasidism, is that the human nature has usually an aspiration to merge or reunify with the divine. Okay, and we want God in our lives, but we can't always achieve it. We sometimes are obsessed with materialism. We're sometimes, we have our evil inclination that we tend to. That maybe we should close the. I don't know what they're doing there. I don't know what they're doing there. Thank you. So, so the text, the Kabbalistic texts really go into this yearning of the soul of human beings to reunify with the divine, and how to do it, and what's the best practice and way to do it, and it goes into a lot of details in that sense as well. Okay. Any questions on those? Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm not understanding the concept of a finite world. Does that mean that there's like an end?
I
It's
think
finite.
I think
not
scientists today are saying that planet Earth has a time limit.
So then that's where I
It's
was kind of
finite.
going with that. Does
That means it's finite,
include-
right?
Yeah,
The glaciers
Yeah.
are melting.
I mean, I think it's like millions of years, but
like planet.
don't
Earth
worry.
is finite.
Okay, what?
Planet Earth is
Yeah.
finite. Okay, so then
But God is not.
I get it. That's,
Okay.
yeah, okay, so,
Is,
all right.
That was a question. Okay.
is,
So is climate change, like the glaciers melting, and there's not as many whales going back and forth. Is that indicative of the timeline for Earth?
It could be. It could be also sought in a different way. If human beings would have been more responsible with, climate change and the environment, maybe,
And
we
the
could have done
bees are
something else.
pollinating, and the frogs are
Yeah.
disappearing.
I don't want to go into that. Yeah. Last question before we move on. Yeah.
it seems to me that perhaps a lot of the search that goes on through Kabbalah may be related to the fact that human beings don't like randomness. They want to somehow create order out of what is viewed as
Yeah.
chaos in the
Right.
universe.
I think that's a fair observation. Okay, influence and legacy. The Zohar has had a profound impact on Jewish thought, influencing various movements and thinkers throughout history. Its teachings have been integrated into liturgy, ethics, and philosophy. I would add also halacha, Jewish law, shaping the spiritual landscape of Judaism. Notably, the 16th century Kabbalist Isaac Luria expanded upon the Zohar's ideas, developing the Lurianic Kabbalah, which introduced concepts like the shattering of the vessels, Shfirat HaKelim, and the process of cosmic repair, Tikkun Olam. And not Tikkun Olam as we understand it, as sort of like repairing the world, but more in a cosmic way of the world that needs to be fixed in a different way. So
Is he the Messiah, quote unquote?
no, that was Shabtai Tzvi. That was like the 17th century. But Luria was in Tzfat, okay, and there was like a mystical group in Tzfat that he was leading. They actually came from Turkey, I think, to settle the land of Israel, and they were like, I don't know, not early Zionists because that wasn't their idea, but they wanted to do it in the land of Israel in the ancient city of Tzfat. And he's buried there, and there's like a very famous mikveh that you go and you dip there in the middle of the night, and it's supposed to be very spiritual.
Where is that?
In Tzfat.
And where in Israel?
Tzfat is like in the north part of Israel.
We went to Tzfat once, Henry and I,
Uh-huh.
and when they heard what his last name was, Lurie,
Oh.
everybody came out of all the stores. Everybody, they just almost bowed down to him
Oh, wow.
because they said that all the Luries throughout
Yeah.
the world are related.
Oh, that's a
It
big name.
was really
Wow.
big. It was like he was a god.
Wow. That's beautiful. That's quite a story. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Sfirot. Okay, dive into Kabbalah a little bit. If Madonna knows it, why shouldn't you? Okay. The 10 Sfirot in Kabbalah are the divine attributes or emanations through which God interacts with the world. They form a kind of a spiritual blueprint for all existence, from the divine realm down to human behavior. The Sfirot are usually arranged in a diagram called the Tree of Life, Eitz Chaim, and are often grouped into 3 columns, right, left, and center, correspondence to the balance, mercy, and judgment. Okay, and it's also associated with different parts of the body. Okay, like the brain. Okay, the eyes, the chest, the arms. The abdominal parts, and obviously also the sexual parts of men and female, and etc. And here's a more clear breakdown of that. Okay, what are the upper three sfirot, which are considered to be related with the mochin, the intellect? Okay, these are the mental or cognitive powers of God and man. Keter, which is crown, that's the top one. The divine will beyond conscious thought. It represents God's infinite will and the source of all other sfirot. Okay, so obviously that's the most important one. Sometimes it's not counted and dot is used instead. Okay, so there's like different versions of it. Chokhmah, which is wisdom, flash of insight, creative spark, the initial burst of inspiration, an idea in its raw, undeveloped form, associated with the right brain intuition and spiritual openness. Okay, so that's part of what we have in ourselves, and we see that probably also maybe in
Well,
nature.
how did they know about left and right brain back then? And it doesn't, that's a modern,
That's a modern, yeah. Binah is understanding, analytical processing, development, the shaping and structuring of the raw idea from chokhmah, from wisdom, left brain logic, and deep contemplation. Binah gives birth to emotions and spiritual awareness. Okay. But this mystical thing that they wrote back, it's even back then that they wrote this, but it's kind of like proved to be right in a way. So that's even a stronger proof for some people that Kabbalah is right. Okay, the middle six, which are emotions, which are more like midot. These are emotional and relational attributes. Chesed, kindness, love. Overflowing generosity, which means pure giving, unconditional love, expansion, and God's love in creation and human acts of compassion. Okay, so that's that side of us. Gvura is strength, judgment, which is discipline, restraint, boundaries, and that is limiting and focusing and holding back, and it's often associated with justice or awe, and it balances chesed, right? Because if you're only about chesed, only about kindness and love, and you don't have any strength, any judgment, it's going to be very hard to run the world this way, right? So you have to have some balance there. Tiferet, which is beauty and harmony, and that's the balance between love and judgment. Blends chesed and gvura into compassion and empathy, associated with truth and the heart. Okay. The seventh one is netzach, which means eternity or endurance, and that is victory, persistence, and drive, and that is the power to overcome obstacles and push forward, and emotional energy applied outwardly. Hod is a glory, surrender, humility, gratitude, and receptivity. And that's associated with submissiveness to a higher truth, acknowledging limits, and it complements netzach, the eternity and endurance, through introspection and appreciation. And then is Yesod, foundation, the ninth one, which is associated with connection, communication, and intimacy. And it channels and unites all prior sfirot into action, acts as a bridge between emotions and actual manifestation, and it's associated with truth and the soul's communication. Okay, and the final one, the 10th, is action, malchut. And this is the vessel or receiver of all above. Malchut, kingship, sovereignty, manifestation, and receptivity, leadership. The feminine vessel that receives and expresses all other sfirot. Okay, and it symbolizes the Shekhinah, divine presence in the world, and it also reflects speech, prayer, and the physical world. So it's interesting that all the other 9 are associated with more male qualities, and the more feminine qualities are associated with speech, prayer, and physical world, but also the action. Okay, and that's associated with the Shekhinah, which is the divine presence in the world. So there's God, who's everywhere, who's all above and everything, and then there's Shekhinah. There's like another part of God, which is his divinity, which is in the world. By the way, Kabbalah is a little bit tricky because they use different words for God, and they don't always mean the same. And some people said, like, what are you talking about? Like Shekhinah, that's like the feminine part, and there's like a male part of God. So people were sometimes upset with Kabbalah for doing sort of like giving God like a dual role. God should be just one. But it's very interesting the way it's described.
So Kabbalah would say Hashem could mean different things.
No, Hashem is Hashem, but Shekhinah is a different form of God. Okay. Okay, so now I have a movie in Kabbalah. Do you see it on Zoom as well?
Yes. I see a
Hey.
big black dot. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Infinite universe.
And
In the beginning, God decided to do the impossible, to create a finite, diverse universe within his infinite, indivisible self. God first created the mystical Sephirot, 10 divine channels through which his infinite light could be condensed, contracted, and then released as individualized attributes that could eventually give rise to a diversity of finite creations. Let us make man in our own image, said God. No sooner said than done. Man was created in his Creator's image, with his own internal set of 10 attributes through which he operates. These 10 spiritual attributes are reflected in the physical human anatomy. Let's go through them, one by one. Sephira 1, Chachma. Chachma is the initial seed of an idea, the flash of undeveloped inspiration. It enables us to be creative, spiritual, transcendent. Sephira 2, Bina. Bina is the development of ideas. It enables us to be logical, analytical, organized. Sephira 3, Dot. Dot allows us to focus on an idea so that it becomes relevant and personally meaningful. It enables us to be attentive, principled, involved. Sephira 4, Chesed. Chesed is the power to love, share, and look kindly upon others. It enables us to be generous, optimistic, sociable. Sephira 5, Gevura. Gevura is the power of discipline and restraint. It enables us to be calculated, cautious, serious. Sephira 6, Tiferet. Tiferet is the power to empathize and to harmonize kindness with strictness based on the needs of others. It enables us to be balanced, empathetic, harmonious. Sephira 7, Netzach. Netzach is the power of determination to overcome challenge. It enables us to be persistent, forceful, daring. Sephira 8, Hod. Hod is the power of humility, gratitude, and submitting to a higher cause. It enables us to be thankful, devoted, accommodating. Sephira 9, Yesod. Yesod is the power to focus on others and to build genuine relationships. It enables us to be selfless, altruistic, loyal. And last, but not at all least, Sephira 10, Malchut. Malchut has multiple functions. It is the power of speech and action, effective communication and leadership. and to be receptive to others. It enables us to be leading, communicating, achieving. So there you have it, the 10 components of the human self, the internal mechanism upon which all intellect, emotion, and actions run. God used 10 sephirot to create his universe, and we use our 10 sephirot to shape our miniature universes.
Okay, I hope that was helpful. So you're able to understand a little bit more about that. Okay, let's continue. Oh, okay, and here's a summary really of those as well, and how it's in the body. Okay, let's dive into one text of Kabbalah and the Zohar, which is the story of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, or shortened for Rashbi, and his son Rabbi Elazar, hiding in a cave, which is a foundational narrative in Jewish mysticism, illustrating themes of divine providence, spiritual transformation, and the tension between asceticism and engagement with the world. Did you hear the story of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in the cave with his son? It's a really classic Kabbalistic story. The cave, a sanctuary of divine study, facing a death sentence from the Roman authorities due to his outspoken criticism, Rabbi Shimon and his son, Rabbi Elazar, sought refuge in a cave near Pki'in. Pki'in is not far from Tzfat. It's also in the north of Israel. Today it's a Druze village. And there are traditions of this is the cave of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai until today. If you go to that village of Pki'in, it's considered a holy place. And there's a family called the Zinati family that has the key to that's been going on from generation to generation, and you go there, they open it for you, and it's a special place to go to. And miraculously, a carob tree and a spring of water appeared to sustain them. They immersed themselves in Torah study for 12 years, during which, according to tradition, they delve into the deepest secrets of the Torah, laying the groundwork for what would become the Zohar, the seminal text of Kabbalah. So what you do for 12 years, stuck in a cave, can't go anywhere, and your entire diet is based on water and carobs. Okay, you go crazy, but you also have a lot of time to study and work out things like the Kabbalah. They according to tradition, they did it naked, but you can't study Torah naked, so they delved into the sand that was there, and that sort of made sure that they were not studying Torah naked. But that's like another mystical part. So the text I want to study, there are a lot of texts about it, but the text I chose is the one where they are emerging and re-entering the world. After 12 years, just if you could turn off the cell phone.
I tried, I couldn't do it.
Oh, okay.
I turned it down, that's as far as
Maybe,
I
okay.
could get it.
After 12 years, Elijah the prophet informed them, meaning Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Elazar, that the emperor had died and the decree was annulled. Okay, no one's after them anymore, and they could come out. Upon leaving the cave, they observed people engaged in mundane agricultural work. Disturbed by what they perceived as a neglect of spiritual pursuits, their gaze caused destruction to the fields. A divine voice reprimanded them. Have you come out to destroy my world? Return to your cave. They retreated for another year to refine their understanding. So what's happening here in this story? Again, enigmatic, not really clear. I mean, it's a story, we understand it, but we don't really understand what's going on. So what are your thoughts about why are they upset with people working in the fields?
Well, maybe it seems like they got so deep into their study that they transcended all of this mundane tasks and things, and then they go outside and it's just like these guys don't know what's going on.
Yeah, just like we've discovered these spiritual heights, and we live this spiritual life, and all we needed was water and carobs, and these people are like busy running, working, and what is this thing? They're mocking human beings for what they're doing. So they were like mystical in the sense they had such strong powers that just their gaze could kill people, which is, I don't know how exactly that happened, but that's sort of like what happened. So a voice comes out from heaven, a godly voice, and reprimands not the human beings working in the fields, reprimands Rabbi Shimon and his son, Rabbi Elazar. Have you come to destroy my world? It's like, what do you want? This is how the world works. People need to go to the field. They need to work. They need to make a living. They need wheat to grow, to make bread, because regular human beings, that's what they do. This is, you want to study Torah, but also work, also, make a living or something. You can't the world cannot sustain itself in the way that you think in just the spiritual realm. Okay? So return to your caves, and they were punished with another year in the cave to better understand how the world works. Okay? And when they emerged again, Rabbi Elazar, the son, continued to be critical, but Rabbi Shimon, having gained a deeper appreciation for the balance between spiritual and worldly endeavors, healed the damage his son caused. And this transformation highlights the importance of integrating spiritual insights with compassion and understanding for the practical aspects of life. Okay, you have to have that balance. And this narrative underscores the Kabbalistic principles that true spiritual enlightenment must harmonize with the physical world, guiding individuals toward and balanced and compassionate existence.
How does the ultra-Orthodox view this with the idea that they're studying all the time and not really relating to the world?
Well, that's a good question. They see, themselves as like a special elite, and it's related more to a different concept in Judaism, that the community needs to sustain rabbis that would study. Okay, and they're right. It's just that the community never thought it would sustain tens of thousands of people doing it. They thought like a few, right? So what are some of the foundational and classical Kabbalistic texts? Sefer Zohar, which we talked about. The second one is Sefer Yetzirah, the book of creation, attributed to Abraham, the father Abraham, or early rabbinic sages, the 3rd or 6th century. And it's a short cryptic text about the creation of the universe through Hebrew letters and numbers, foundational to later Kabbalistic thought. Another classical Kabbalistic text is Eitz Chaim, the Tree of Life, by Rabbi Chaim Vital in the 16th century, and it's based on teachings of Isaac Luria, the Ari, and that's from Tzfat. And another one is Sha'ar Agilgulim, the Gate of Reincarnations, which describes a Kabbalistic view of Gilgul, reincarnation, soul correction, and how souls transmigrate through time for spiritual rectification. So although classical Judaism does not believe in reincarnation, okay, Kabbalah does. Okay, Kabbalah believes in reincarnation, and they were criticized also for that by classical Judaism as well. And there's also the Sefer Bahir, which it's an early mystical text filled with parables and teachings about the Sfirot, God's names, and cosmic mysteries. It's very enigmatic. Later Kabbalistic works and popular commentaries is the Tanya. Have you heard of the Tanya? Okay. And that was written by Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi. Okay, 18th century, the founder of Chabad, okay? And it combines Kabbalistic and Hasidic thought, presenting a psychological and spiritual roadmap for the soul's connection with God, okay? So I wanted to talk a little bit about Chabad and Kabbalah and how they are deeply connected. And Chabad and Kabbalah are deeply connected, with Chabad philosophy emerging as a unique development within the broader tradition of Jewish mysticism. Founded in the late 18th century by Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, Chabad, it's an acronym for Chokhmah, Binah, and Da'at, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, and is a branch of Hasidism that places strong emphasis on the intellectual engagement with mystical ideas, drawing heavily on the Kabbalistic teachings of the Zohar and the Lurianic system of the Ari, Rabbi Isaac Luria. Chabad interprets these complex doctrines in a way that emphasizes personal spiritual development and psychological insight, which, by the way, makes it very popular today. The foundational text of Chabad, the Tanya, merges Kabbalistic metaphysics with practical, ethical, and emotional guidance, making abstract ideas like divine emanations and soul dynamics relevant to daily life, okay? So unlike classical Kabbalah, which was often esoteric and reserved for elite scholars, Chabad's approach is more accessible and focused on inner transformation, okay? So, Kabbalah throws out ideas and doesn't explain it and leaves it for a small circle of people to figure it out. Chabad tries to explain the concepts in a more intellectual way and to make it more popular and spread it around. The movement teaches that understanding mystical concepts intellectually is not just for scholars, but essentially for every Jew seeking to connect with God. For example, Chabad literature explores the nature of the divine light, or Ein Sof, the infinite, the process of creation through the Sfirot, and the soul's internal struggle between its divine and animal inclinations. These ideas are not taught merely as abstract theology, but as tools for developing love and awe of God, refining one's character, and infusing daily mitzvot with deeper meaning. Okay, in this way, Chabad can be seen as both a continuation and a democratization of Kabbalah, bringing its spiritual power to the wider Jewish world. So every mitzvah that Chabad makes you make, okay, that influences the powers of God in the world, and it connects more with God, and it doesn't just help you, it helps the whole world according to their philosophy. The democratization of Kabbalah by Chabad, making mystical teachings accessible to the general public, has been both praised and criticized, especially by traditional rabbinic authorities and other Hasidic groups. The criticisms center around three main concerns. One is violation of traditional restrictions. Historically, Kabbalah was reserved for a spiritual elite, typically married men over 40 who were well-versed in Torah and Talmud. Okay, so you have to be married, you have to be over 40, and you have to know a lot of Torah and Talmud. Critics argue that Chabad's open teaching of mystical concepts to younger or less learning audiences violated this long-standing norm. They feared that people without proper grounding in Jewish law and theology might misunderstand or misuse Kabbalistic teachings, leading to confusion, arrogance, or spiritual error. And I must say that has happened many oftentimes. if you just study Kabbalah without knowing Judaism, which was a lot of people do that, you get a very wrong understanding of what Judaism is. The second problem was intellectualization of mysticism. Chabad's intellectual approach centered on chokhmah, bina, and dat, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, and has been critiqued for rationalizing and systemizing what many see as a fundamentally experiential or intuitive tradition. Some Hasidic leaders, especially from more emotionally oriented sects like Breslov, felt that Chabad's style reduced the spiritual fire of Kabbalah to abstract philosophy, potentially weakening its transformative power. Okay, so that was another criticism. And the third and more famous criticism is messianism and elevation of the Rebbe. In the 20th century, particularly with the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Menachem Mendel Schneerson, some critics became alarmed by messianic tones and the quasi-mystical reverence for the Rebbe found in parts of Chabad. They saw this as a distortion of Kabbalistic ideas, blurring the line between human and divine. This concern grew especially strong among other Orthodox leaders after some Chabad followers began proclaiming the Rebbe, after he died, as the Messiah. Okay, even the man was dead, so that became very alarming.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Okay, and just the way they look at the Rebbe as sort of like God in a way, or God's Messiah, is very, very alarming. There's a lot of books written about that even by Orthodox Jews that sort of like criticize strongly Chabad for that. And there's a very famous quote by one of the great more Litvak rabbis who's saying, Chabad is not so bad. It's the closest religion to Judaism. Right, that's pretty harsh. Pretty harsh criticism, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Sefer Yetzirah is what we're gonna end with and talk about. Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Creation, is one of the earliest and most foundational works of Jewish mysticism, likely composed between the 2nd and 6th centuries CE. It presents a concise cosmology rooted in the idea that God created the universe through language, specifically through the 22 Hebrew letters and the 10 Sfirot, numerical emanations. One of its central themes is the power of speech and thought in divine creation. The Hebrew letters are not just symbols, but active forces through which the world was formed. The 10 Sfirot, often interpreted as abstract principles like wisdom, understanding, and strength, serve as the building blocks of reality. Okay, so this is much more than just a language. It's an entire system of how the world works. Sefer Yetzirah outlines how the letters and Sfirot interact to form space, time, and soul, what it refers to as the 3 dimensions of existence. It also introduces the idea of correspondence between the spiritual and material worlds, linking letters to elements, body parts, planets, and directions. Rather than presenting a systematic theology, Sefer Yetzirah offers a cryptic and symbolic framework that later Kabbalistics would expand upon, and it emphasizes on creation through divine language and structure, continues to influence Jewish mystical thought, particularly the development of later Kabbalah. Sefer Yetzirah did not contain in itself sexual content in the modern sense. However, like much of Jewish mystical literature, it uses symbolic and metaphorical language that can include gendered or creative imagery, especially relating to the process of creation and relationship between divine forces. And we'll see this in the pictures now soon, which could be erotic sometimes. For example, the Sfirot and Hebrew letters are sometimes described using masculine and feminine qualities and organs. reflecting ancient ideas of duality and balance, such as form and matter, or giving and receiving. And later Kabbalistic texts, especially the Zohar, build on these ideas with more overt erotic or sexual metaphors to describe the dynamics between aspects of the divine, the union of the masculine Tiferet and feminine Shekhinah. So we'll see in these photos, very erotic photos, and that comes from exactly that concept of like merging all these forces into the world. So you have to look at it not as, from a pornographic point of view. You have to try to see more like the mystical parts of it. So this is like a warning for those viewing the photos in a moment. Let me keep. I don't know if to keep the recording going. Because I'm not sure we'll be able to see. Let's see if we can do this. Okay, so everyone, if you could move here. Can you get me some napkins there, George? Okay, thank you. Okay, if anyone sees something not dry here, let's say, people, let me know. Okay. Okay. Okay, so look at this. And it says here, the prestigious collector's edition of the millenary text of Sefer Yetzirah and the 32 parts A Path of Wisdom includes 36 original illustrations by Ernst Fuchs. Next. Ernst Fuchs. There are a limited 297 copies for the entire world. One of them is here in our hand. Whatever the language or materials used, each copy is numbered from 1 to 297 and bears the artist's signature. For this work, Ernst Fuchs has created 14 original engravings, 22 full color illustrations, etc. There's French, English, Hebrew, German, okay. And this is number 219, and it's autographed here by him. Okay. Okay, look at this. Okay. I wonder if they could see this on Zoom. Oh yeah, there you go. Okay. Very interesting concept. Okay, and this is sort of like, oh, and he portrayed himself in some of these. Okay. Here you see a more, okay. This is, some would say profanity. This is in God's name. But you have someone naked, and this would be like chokhmah, like wisdom. Okay.
And when did he do these?
This I think in the 20th century sometimes.
And these self-portraits?
I don't know. Okay, here's another one. Okay. Here are, okay, you can, again, if you go to everything that we talked about today, and you think sort of like the different images that were discussed today, okay, so you could, I don't know, in some way imagine these forces merging together, and, you know, obviously the sexual forces that we have in our lives are also bring us creativity and productivity, etc.
The last one looks like William Blake, by the way. The one you just held up before looks like William Blake's art.
Okay, but could you see it well on the?
How many people are in there? 3 or 4?
I don't know. That's very interesting. I mean, I wish someone, maybe some art professor, could give us a lecture one day about these. I do not know much about this. Okay. Here's another one of unification. In a way, fascinating, huh? Like, to see it on video. Right? Very interesting. Okay. Okay, wow, what is this?
How many more?
Yeah, well, there are a lot more. I'm not gonna go through all of them. Okay, here is a more, here's like a page from Sefer Yetzirah. Okay, this is the Hebrew. Okay, and here is translation around it. Okay, by the 32 wonderful path of wisdom, the eternal God, Lord of hosts, God of Israel, the living God, the almighty God, high and sublime, holy God, dwelling in the heavens for eternity, has carved and created his universe through 3 books: the written letter, the cipher number, and the speech word. Okay, that's his interpretation. Okay, we've seen this already. I don't want to go too fast here. Okay. Again, another one with more text here.
What language is the text in?
What's this?
Here it's French, here it's German.
You mean the original language? I think Hebrew is the original language. I think, yeah. Okay.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Just magnificent. Yeah.
Thanks.
And
Very nice.
okay. Yeah, maybe we should be wearing gloves, but I that's why I cleaned all the water from around here. Okay. So just, yeah, I mean, there's so much to talk about here. Here's more. Let's see if there was like anything special here. Okay, it like continues in this way. Okay, and has more and more of these photos. Okay, so that really gives us a very good view of it. I do want to ask a volunteer to put back everything in a nice way. Okay,
Have been nominated.
Sandra, you're nominated. Okay.